What's good, everyone? Thank you for stopping by to visit the channel for the preview of the national championship game between Alabama and Georgia. If you want to hear a different take of college football from an analytical perspective, if you haven't done so already, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and select all so you won't miss another video. Also, like the video, it helps the channel grow, and give me your score prediction in the comment section below, even if you agree or disagree with my score prediction. Folks, I'm going to treat you like Marshawn Lynch. I know why you're here, so let's get after it. With the win against Cincinnati, Alabama's wins against F+ top 25 teams go to 9. This is an extremely good schedule. Alabama had 13 games against FBS opponents, and 11 of those teams are rated in the top 50. The Crimson Tide has more victories against the F+ top 25 than the other playoff participants, as well as the teams who were in the New Year's Six. Alabama's only loss of the season was against Texas A&M, who is 8th in the F+, but it was a game in which Alabama did not play their A+ game. But they held the lead late before losing in the last-second field goal. In retrospect, that game has put Alabama in a do-or-die situation for the rest of the season, and they responded by running the table. Despite Georgia's schedule being lower than Alabama, they had 7 wins against the F+ top 25, which is only one spot lower than the Crimson Tide. The Bulldogs still hold the second-best schedule from an SP+ perspective, and their defense faced the second-best offensive schedule among the teams in the playoff. Part of that was due to Alabama and Tennessee were top 10 offenses, and they faced only one offense this season ranked 100 or worse, which was Vanderbilt. If we're being honest, and this is a channel that doesn't pull any punches, the college football players gave us the 2 best teams in the country playing for the national championship. Despite your feelings against the SEC, if we didn't have this current system, we would have ended up with Alabama versus Michigan in the BCS, or if we were to go back to the old Bowl Alliance system before the BCS, we would have ended up with potentially Alabama versus a Big 12 representative in the Sugar Bowl, and Georgia would have ended up in another bowl. This brought back memories of joyless murder ball when Alabama was around in 2009 when they were competing for national championships. The Crimson Tide ran all over Cincinnati's defense to the point to where they didn't need Bryce Young to throw the ball. Brian Robinson Jr. looked healthy as he did early in the year, as he had a 73% success rate running the ball. His backup, Trey Sanders, had a 50% success rate as well, and he is slowly beginning to look like the guy Alabama fans were hoping to see before he started to get season-ending injuries. I previewed this game on Twitter, and I mentioned that Cincinnati wanted to stay on schedule and stay away from passing down situations due to it not being Desmond Ridder's strong suit. Well, when they got into a passing down situation, it didn't go well for them with a 13% success rate. That bodes well for Alabama, especially as they were down without their starting cornerbacks in Josh Jobe and Jalen Armour-Davis. Kool-Aid McKinstry and Kyrie Jackson stepped in admirably, and the Alabama pass rush disrupted the Cincinnati offense. This game was over and put to bed by the first quarter. Georgia bullied Michigan on both sides of the ball as the Georgia offense looked like the Georgia offense from weeks 2 to 12. Get out to an early lead, impose your will, and let your defense shut the door. When I saw the Michigan offensive line come out with custom-made shirts saying, "Run the damn ball," I thought it was a bold strategy for Michigan. Essentially, they were saying, they're going to test Georgia's manhood up front. And that strategy didn't pay off one bit. I posted my preview on Twitter, and when I do these postseason games, I try to find similar competition for a team's opponent based on who they played this year. The rushing offense that best resembled Michigan on Georgia's schedule was none other than Kentucky. The difference was Kentucky's rushing efficiency was higher than Michigan's for the year. But what remained the same was the outcome, and it was almost down to the point total. Georgia beat Kentucky 30-13 and beat Michigan 34-11. As we all witnessed in the SEC championship game, the Georgia front seven is the strength of this defense, but the glaring weakness is the back four. In the SEC championship game, I previewed the Georgia defense on passing downs, and they were ranked in the top 10. After the game in the Orange Bowl, Georgia is now ranked 20th in adjusted passing down defense. When you realize Georgia is 32nd in the country in third down conversions against FBS competition, it starts to make some sense. Alabama is the best team in the country in these situations, and if Georgia can't get off the field on third down, Alabama's going to go with tempo and continue to add mileage on Georgia's front. Now, Alabama is obviously going to be without John Mechie at wide receiver, so Georgia can utilize some resources and use some bracket coverage against Jamison Williams. But as we saw in the opening drive in the SEC championship game, that didn't matter, as he was able to beat that coverage on a stutter and go. Alabama is not going to line up and mash the Georgia front, even with a healthy Brian Robinson Jr. In fact, nobody has done that all season. So I expect them to use the pass to set up the running game. I thought Stetson Bennett had a decent showing in the first game, but decent is not going to be enough to beat Alabama. Brock Bowers has emerged as a primary target for him, and he also has great chemistry with Ladd McConkey. When the bread is buttered, though, is at the running game. James Cook is our best player at running back, in my opinion, and that says a lot in a loaded backfield. Cook is more than a serviceable receiver in the backfield, and he is a problem for linebackers in man coverage. You also have the return of George Pickens, and Alabama's starting cornerbacks are relatively green. However, the Alabama front seven is not chopped liver by any means. They have an elite front seven that doesn't get talked about as much as the Georgia front seven does. What makes Alabama's front unique is their ability to get pressure with 4 or 5 without having to bring the house, and they can stop the run without committing an extra person. They have been doing that consistently over the last 7 weeks. The computer model is almost in line with the Vegas spread. The spread currently has Georgia as a 3-point favorite, and the model expects Georgia to win the game by an estimated score of 27-25, with Alabama covering. Bill Connolly in his SP Plus rating has Georgia favored by an estimated 5 points, and it gives them a 61% chance of winning. All right, so we're at prediction time. It's easy to go with the team that lost the first game. Despite how Georgia finished this year, the people in Vegas think a lot of them to have them favored against a team that basically beat them by 17 points. The path for Alabama to win this game is simple, and that is to protect Bryce Young so he can work his magic against the Georgia secondary. Because if we're being honest, Alabama is not running for 300 yards against Georgia's front seven. Now, that doesn't mean they shouldn't try to run, especially since you have a healthy Brian Robinson Jr. and an emerging Trey Sanders as his backup. And I hate to say the word emerging when it comes to Trey Sanders, since he's a former 5-star running back, but given his story and what he went through just to even play football, it is impressive. Also, Alabama has a few guys injured on the offensive line, so potentially they could be breaking in new starters, and that could be an issue. For Georgia, I don't know where this is coming from, but whoever came up with this narrative of Georgia being unmotivated against Alabama in the SEC championship game, I am sorry, but whoever came up with that has to be smoking some good stuff. I don't buy it. That is a load of BS. After the Auburn game, Alabama was wounded, and the table was set for Georgia to not only beat Alabama in essentially a home game, but to also knock them out of the playoff. Now you're facing them, and they've had your number throughout the years. And you compound that by playing for a national championship that has escaped the program for 40 years. I don't think Georgia was not motivated in that SEC title game. They were up by 10, and everything was going their way until Alabama hit them with that haymaker. And instead of Georgia playing against a team that they could impose their will on, they found out that Alabama wasn't going to lay down. Alabama has been put in adverse situations this year, and each time they find a way to get back in the game. If you're Kirby Smart, you must be able to adapt and try something different in this game, whether it's on offense or defense. Just like on the Water Boy, it's the last game of the year, can't hold anything back now. The key for Georgia is if they can't run the ball at an efficient clip, then they're going to be in trouble if Alabama forces them to put the ball in the hands of Stetson Bennett to beat them. If Georgia can control the line of scrimmage on offense, then you will have the full capability of the Dogs' offense. I think this game is going to be closer than what it was in Atlanta. And since I'm a man of my word, I'm not going against Nick Saban again. I said it when I reviewed the SEC title game. I gave an apology. The GOAT proved me wrong. I think Georgia's going to have a few wrinkles for Alabama, but in the end, they have the better quarterback, the receiving core, minus John Mechie, and the Alabama defense, which is playing at a championship level. They'll find a way to get it done. I think at the end of the game, we are going to talk more about the Alabama defense instead of the Alabama offense. Georgia thinks they can beat Alabama, but Alabama knows they can beat Georgia. And I got the Tide winning by the score of 28-24. And with that being said, that's it. Let me know what your thoughts are on the game in the comment section below. Give me your score prediction and tell me why your team is going to win the game. Please give the video a like, and if you love college football as much as I do, hit the subscribe button if you want to stay updated with the latest previews and the occasional highlights. Thank you for watching this season, and thank you for visiting the channel.